Today we have two 20mm prime lenses from Tokina and Sony. A $600 f2 underrated lens versus a $900 f1.8 G lens. And in this video guys, we'll compare both lenses side by side, discuss the features, and we'll put them on test in different situations so you make up your mind which one suits you the best. Omahe, and let's get started. First of all, a 20mm prime lens, whether a Tokina or Sony, is really cool for fashion and wide portrait, as well as for music videos, documentaries, and indeed Astro Photography. Believe it or not, it works in all of them. Now we'll show you a series of images and videos shot with both lenses, Tokina and Sony, and I want you to guess which lens is A and which lens is B. I probably will never make the right guess, because in real world they look pretty much identical. Now what do you think? What's A and what's B? Alright, A is Tokina and B is Sony. Now let's jump to the actual comparison. So when having both lenses in hand, the Tokina 20mm is a bit heavier than Sony G lens. It comes at 460 grams, 1 pound, whereas Sony is a 370 grams, 13 ounces. Tokina outer body is made of metal and solid plastic. You know, it has a different feel than what we get in Sony. Full plastic. Now speaking of the build, Sony features a custom button which I never use, a manual to autofocus switch button, and an aperture ring. Filmmakers will probably like this feature. On the other hand, none of these lenses has image stabilization, optical steady shot. Now after using both lenses for a while, how was my experience with both of them? Which one I like more and which one I do prefer, and so on. Technically, Tokina Firin 20mm autofocus motor is a little bit noisy. I mean, like, you can hear the focus motor when the lens is in use.
واحدة تاني كمان. مد ايدك شوي على الكاميرا. باك. عندك تمام.
And you may think because of the noise, your footage is not constantly in focus. But in fact, the noise does not affect the autofocus performance, neither the image quality. Although it's not something common among mirrorless lenses, I got used to it to the level that I'm not feeling it most of the time. Maybe because I'm focusing on the work itself more than something else. Let's make an autofocus test anyway.
Tokina. على الكاميرا. Perfect.
Now when making a kind of portrait photography straight out of the camera, I'm really happy with the output of both lenses. Guys, I only shot wide open, Tokina at f2 and Sony at f1.8. I'm not the guy who buy a prime lens to shoot at f2.8 or f4. Anyway, we'll cover the sharpness test at different apertures later in the video. Now indeed, the 20mm focal length is not made for close-ups. You have to be careful with the medium shots. Don't get too much close to the model because the face will look unnatural and distorted when having the model really close to the camera. Make sure to stick with the wide and medium to wide shots. They work the best at this focal length. Here I would like to highlight that Sony 20mm looks slightly wider than Tokina 20mm. Both images shot from the same distance, and I noticed that a couple of times. That's not a problem to discuss, however, it's worth the highlight. And before continue watching this video, I would like to introduce my Lightroom preset packs. You got 3 different packs for several scenarios. In this video, I applied some of my presets to the review images. And if you like the mood and the style I'm using here, head off to omagmrawi.com/store and get yours today. Alright, back to the video. So what about the bokeh? Is there too much a difference between f2 and f1.8? Although Sony f1.8 is a third stop brighter than Tokina f2, the bokeh and shallow depth of field background look very identical to my eyes. As you know, bokeh will not show too much strong with wide-angle lenses. Indeed, the amount of bokeh at f1.8 and f2 will be remarkably more visible than f2.8 and f4. I love making Astro Photography from time to time, and with these lenses you get 1 stop and 1/3 stops more brightness than any f2.8 lens. Let's say we'll end up with 2500 ISO instead of 5000. That's so great. So in general, both lenses did a great job. Minimum focus distance. Since I like to test every aspect in my videos, now we'll check the minimum focus distance of each lens. Basically, Sony features 18 cm 7 inches minimum focus distance. While Tokina on the other hand has 28 cm 11 inches. Technically 20mm is a wide focal length, and you will barely use it for macro scenes. But it's nice to have the extra reach anyway. Sharpness and the image quality. My pixel beeper friends, you will enjoy watching this part of the video. So first of all, and to be honest, I don't really care if the lens is not that sharp on the sides and corners, because most of the time, or maybe all the time, these areas will be out of focus. Now at f1.8 versus f2, Sony 20mm G lens is remarkably sharp in the center and areas near to the center. Next one, Sony at f1.8 versus Tokina at f2. Tokina is doing okay and it has less sharpness wide open. Now at f2.2 and f2.5, we see a remarkable improvement in Tokina. In the center at f2.2, the sharpness is quite similar to Sony at f2.2, while at corners it drops a little bit. Alright, now at f2.8, both lenses are doing great, however Sony is still sharper at corners. And starting from f4, both lenses share roughly the same image quality all over the image. Alright, and if you'd like to get an idea how a 20mm looks like when vlogging, this video is shot on Sony 20mm f1.8 wide open, and I believe it will look the same on Tokina f2. However, some people like to vlog with a 16mm instead, that would be a little bit wider, but now at 20mm wide open at f1.8 we got a very nice shallow background. Alright, and this is Tamron 17 to 28mm at 17mm wide open at f2.8. Eventually I don't have a 16mm lens, so the 17 will play the same role as the 16. I hope this video helped in making your decision. And if you're asking my opinion, both lenses are great for the retail value. And beside the autofocus noise in Tokina, the image quality is really good. Let's say very similar to the Sony in real world. So consider that as well. Now check your budget and think how much will use a prime 20mm lens. Personally, I might use it in Astro Photography, in videos, and probably in stills, even though I don't shoot much white portrait photography. Thank you so much for checking out this video, guys, and if you found this video helpful, show me thumbs up and consider subscribing for more camera gear reviews. This was Oma, and see you guys in another one.